Okay, so it's been 8 years since Batman took the fall for Harvey Dent's crimes and Bruce threw in the cowl. How has this affected his life and the rest of Gotham? Not well. Bruce has basically become the equivalent of a frail old man. He's got this cane, this beard. It's just a sad, sorry sight. We find out he has no cartilage left in his knee, and it's sad. He's barely walking. As for Gotham City, well, things seem peaceful at first, but that all changes when this new terrorist threat, Bane, emerges, and he's just declaring anarchy on the whole city. He wants to bring Gotham to the ground. Now, for me, Bane was definitely one of the strongest aspects of the film. I mean, every time you see this guy, you know he means business. He's just so physically intimidating, and he's got that voice, which I guess I could best describe as a British Darth Vader.
When Gotham is ashes, you have my permission to die.
My friend thought his voice sounded kind of humorous, but I liked it and I thought it was cool, and I could easily understand him the whole way through, so you definitely don't have to worry about that. Batman's voice on the other hand, yeah, it's still pretty silly, but I'm used to it by now. Remember,
I don't wear hockey pants.
Yeah, well, now you may have to. But going back to the character of Bane, I definitely gotta give so much credit to Tom Hardy for this performance, because right from the first time you see him on screen, you know this is not the guy you mess with. Apart from being incredibly buff, this guy's a master planner and strategist. He's smart, and similar to the Joker, he knows how to mess with people psychologically. The difference there is that physically, he is actually more than a match for Batman. He's superior. I remember the first time they're really having this major confrontation. They get into this fist fight. It's the first time Batman has really been in this all-out slugfest. And you know what? Despite giving it his all, he gets his ass handed to him. Yeah, that's right. When you see somebody who is literally able to beat the ever-loving crap out of Batman, this is serious. The Joker asked why so serious? Well, this is why. Now, I do realize they took a few liberties with the character, such as his origin, his accent, and even the look of the mask, but you know what? I like the fact that you can see his eyes. It really allows him to give a lot of expression and emotion, and that's pretty powerful. On top of that, the character does have a certain amount of charisma to him, like you really know where he's coming from with this whole plan of his. I mean, you know that scene with the football stadium in the trailer? Before that, while the kid is singing, he even comments, you know, that's a beautiful singing voice. And I'm thinking, well, he may be a monster, but at least he's polite. Bad man, good manners. It's just those subtle bits of humor that keeps it from getting depressing. Now, you saw in the trailer that Bruce is put in a prison. Yeah, well, it's at that point at the football stadium that Bruce is in the prison. He's watching it on TV and he's helpless. He can't do anything to stop it. The field collapses in on itself. These bombs go off all over the city. The bridges collapse. And Gotham is pretty much quarantined. Only one bridge is left. And that is the point where mass chaos is breaking out. It turns out that Bane is continuing things with the League of Shadows from the first film. Like, remember Ra's al Ghul? Yeah, well, Bane takes that 10 times further. He sets all the prisoners loose. Like the police force, high-ranking officials, they're all brought to their knees. He specifically targets Commissioner Gordon, played once again brilliantly by Gary Oldman. And if you've seen the second film, you would remember that he was the one who covered up Harvey's crimes when Batman took the fall. Conflict! Granted, for a good chunk of it, he's confined to a hospital bed, but I don't want to spoil anything regarding that. Even so, he still gets a lot to do as the film goes on. The one who doesn't get as much to do, unfortunately, is Alfred, played once again by Michael Caine. I know that's a bit disappointing to hear. I mean, come on, we all love Alfred. He's kind of like the voice of the audience right there. And although he does have a pretty significant role for the film's first third, he does disappear for a while. And that's kind of sad. Now, don't get me wrong though, it makes perfect sense. A good explanation is given for it. It's just a shame that he didn't get more screen time. In fact, it's mainly when Bruce puts on the cowl again and becomes Batman that things become tense between the two of them. Granted, that does take a while. I'm not kidding when I say it takes 45 minutes before we see him don the suit. Yeah, well, if you were out of the job for 8 years, I think you'd be a little hesitant to get back to it as well. What partially sparks this is the invasion of a new cat burglar known as Selina Kyle, better known as Catwoman. She steals a necklace that belonged to Bruce's mom and takes some of his fingerprints as well as a tracker. So, you know, he's got a bit of a conflict there. However, Catwoman, unlike the others we've seen so far, is not really a villain. I mean, I guess she's a criminal because she's a thief, but she's also sort of an anti-hero. At the same time, she is definitely one of the things that made the film for me. I love Anne Hathaway in this role. She just plays it to a T. She's perfect. And I really feel it's like the best on-screen representation we've gotten of the character. Now, I mean no disrespect to Michelle Pfeiffer. She did a good job, but she was crazy. Also, the ears, a bit ridiculous. In this one, they actually have a purpose. They turn into these special goggles. But when they go up, yeah, they kind of resemble cat ears. But, you know, they don't really bash you over the head with the whole Catwoman thing. I don't think she's ever even called Catwoman in this. Some people may say they don't like the way the suit looks, but hey, that's purely cosmetic. Others have claimed that Hathaway might have been a little too young, but you know what, she's 30, she can pull it off just fine. I love her anyway. As you saw in the trailers, she does end up working with Batman at certain points, but even then, she still has a bit more of an edge to her. She's not afraid to badly hurt or even kill people. So yeah, that's something you gotta work with right there. I mean, even the first time they're working together, Batman just knocks the gun out of her hand. He's like, no, no guns. Even so, I did feel that they had a good chemistry going, you know, the whole opposites attract kind of thing, and that was pretty cool. Another character who I really liked, I thought he was an excellent addition to the cast, was John Blake. He's a young police officer played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he was really inspired by Batman. He even met Bruce when he was younger, and I thought that was really cool. So they already had a connection there between both identities of the character, and they work well together too. He's a strong guy, he's really compassionate, and he's genuinely willing to fight for what he believes in. Literally fight for it. There's just something to admire about a guy like that. As for the remaining cast members, Christian Bale is the titular character. He's great as always, and he's really experiencing new levels of emotion here. How he's fallen so far, and how he has to literally rise back up again. And for the first time, he's really experiencing true defeat at the hands of a maniac, of a villain. That's pretty rough. In fact, there was one scene, a fight scene, which genuinely shocked me at what happened. I'm not going to tell you, but trust me, I think you're going to know when it happens. Also, Morgan Freeman is back as Lucius Fox, Bruce's tech guy, and the only other person apart from Alfred who knows he's Batman. It's Morgan Freeman. What can you say? You gotta love him. And he does get a bit more to do this time around. He actually gets in on the action during the climax, so that was pretty cool to see. Can't really say much more about him. He's the tech guy. The one remaining cast member is Marion Cotillard, who is basically a representative of this business that Bruce was previously funding, but of course Bruce's funds have gone down the toilet, so those funds stopped coming. And what with the absence of Rachel in this film, she does sort of function as somewhat of a new love interest. Granted, she doesn't get as much to do as some of the other characters do. However, I think she fulfilled her purpose, and her role does work pretty well. Some people have given the argument that with 8 main cast members, it might be a bit bloated. Some people may not have been done justice, but you know what? The movie is 2 hours 45 minutes long. I think that's more than enough time to properly do justice to everybody. In fact, I mean, it's a Nolan film. Batman may be the central character, but this has always been an ensemble piece. But yeah, at 2 hours 45 minutes, it is a really long movie, and it's not all action. In fact, for the first half hour or so, it's mainly build-up, exposition, character development. But you know what? I really like that. I don't want a movie to just be mindless action. I love it when a film really focuses on its characters, focuses on their relationship, and the conversations, and their overall development. That's part of the reason why I love the Tarantino films so much, and I've kind of adopted that own style to my writing. But I'm not here to talk about my own work. That's a video for another day. Even so, I have heard complaints about the pacing, like it's too slow in some areas, it gets boring, but I was never bored. I mean, it did get kind of slow in some areas, and I'm thinking like, okay, we can pick up the pace a bit, but it never really got to me just because I love seeing these characters interacting with one another, and there are a lot of really great performances here. I don't think there was a single dud amongst the cast. And one other thing is, there was actually a pretty decent twist thrown in there. I mean, granted, if you're a fan of the comics, you may see this coming, but I wasn't really thinking of that. I'm thinking like, oh, geez, wow, that actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. So, yeah, that was pretty cool too. Even so, the film isn't perfect. There were some minor lapses in logic. I mean, like, oh, why does Bruce take so long to ask what that whole chant means even though he's been in the prison for like 10 days? Well, you know what? That was never really a focus for him. He just wanted to get out, and then he's finally thinking like, you know what does that mean? And that kind of provokes him more once he finds out that that does mean rise. Also, some people may argue that Bane's plan doesn't really make sense. I mean, why is he threatening to bomb the city if they don't cooperate when he's just planning on bombing it anyway? Well, he does have a certain amount of time, and he really wants to convey this message. Think of what the Joker was trying to do. Like, bring Batman to his knees, prove that he was fallible. Bane is basically trying to do that with the entire city. So again, despite some minor inconsistencies or lapses in logic, I find that the good far outweighs the bad with this film. There is like a very small percentage of bad that I actually found with it. And so I have to give it a 9.5 out of 10. It is a truly epic conclusion to a fantastic trilogy. How many trilogies can you actually say that for about all three films? Either way, this isn't just based on how good I thought the movie was or how well made I thought it was. This is more based on how much I enjoyed it, and I just had such a great time. It really got to me. Granted, going in, I knew nothing was going to top Heath Ledger's Joker. God rest his soul, he was phenomenal. But hey, Tom Hardy and Anne Hathaway do give him a bit of a run for his money. I didn't think this was quite as good as The Dark Knight, but it does come pretty close. And if you can believe it, it does manage to get even darker than The Dark Knight did. This film earns its PG-13 rating well. Do not let young children see this. They will have nightmares. And that pretty much sums up my thoughts on the film as a whole. Now, I'm fine if you disagree with me, but seriously, the majority has spoken. Even so, I know certain people aren't going to like it. It's definitely not for everybody, but to me, it was just a golden ending. And plus, there is a nice little tidbit laid into the film. So, watch out for that. You're going to know what it is. Guess I have nothing else to say, but once again, peace.